Hello, everyone. I'm the okayest bassist, and this is the BASSics Volume 16. And I have all ready to add to the stage. Hopefully, he's ready. If he's not, well, he's going to get added anyway. I have the legendary, the mythical, the. He's known by people sometimes. Chris Volpini. There he is.
I'm not known by people, but I'm here.
I know you.
That's true.
I know some people know you.
That's true.
There's a couple of us who know you, at least know your name. There's that.
I was made the one guy
Good
super
evening, Grok.
bored that one time.
I mean, there you go. It's like a thing I'd seen on Facebook. It was a restaurant had like right next to their register screen, like a printed out like on canvas, and it was from Yelp, and they had home to the worst cup of coffee some lady's ever had in her whole life. It's like take your fame where you can get
Hey,
it.
yep.
So tonight's topic is on touring slash gigging and is it worth it? I do have a couple questions that I thought up just on my end because I don't tour. I've never toured. I don't gig unless you count playing at church gigging, which I don't because that's not a gig. That's just a thing. Um, but I do have a couple of the questions. I know Hondo was going to join us, but I haven't seen anything from him. First thing I'll do is what I normally do. I'll ask in the chat, are we good on audio? I can increase mine. I can't increase Chris. Actually, I might be able to because there's like a weird float over thing on the camera settings where there's a volume slider. So I might be able to increase Chris too. I don't know. There's a dibble.
Is it
Johnny, isn't it like 11 o'clock there or midnight, something like that? So you're like 6, 7 hours away off of a. I think you're six. So it's like 11 o'clock or something like that. I think. I don't know. So you have the stage, Chris. If anyone says anything about audio, we can try to fix that. So, um, would you rather give your general thoughts on it before the questions, or would you rather start with the questions?
um well, let me give because there's yeah, let me give my general thoughts and then we can. So I actually just came off of
Cool.
a 3-day run um around the Great Lakes area. We did Akron, Cleveland, and Waterloo. But it's kind of a loaded question. Is it worth it financially? It, are we talking, experience, value, financials, growth, or if you just look at one thing, your answer is gonna vary wildly. Um, so financially, is it worth it? Well, that depends. I mean, you did you do everything you could? Did you sell merch? Did you you know, how well did you plan things out? Did how good were you at cutting costs and stuff like that? So it's it's not unlike it's just like starting any company. There's upfront investment involved, and sometimes that investment is your time. Sometimes that investment is your money. Sometimes that investment is whatever. Um, so
Selling your soul at a crossroads.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe not that dramatic, but like it's you know, you, depends how you look at it is whether or not it's worth it. So, for example, we just did a 3-day run. It's really been the way this tour is working out. It's been, and I think a lot of bands are in this boat. It's like a lot of out and backs, just because the sustaining yourself on just being constantly on the road for an extended period of time can just it's hard financially. It's really hard. Hotel rooms are expensive, um, and we're a big band. That doesn't help either. 8-piece band, um, but sometimes we we go to these. We went to Whitesburg, Kentucky, and opened for a blues singer by the name of Shamika Copeland, and we I think we got paid pretty well to do that, and then but we also sold like $500 worth of merch that night. So things like that happen that make it that you're like, wow, this is. And then sometimes you go all the way out and you don't sell anything. You know, it's a feast famine thing, but whether or not it's worth it is, to me, it is. Because what I've noticed is every time we go out, it grows and it grows and it grows. Somebody in the low end lobster forum had heard of us from like across the country, and we've been, our streaming data and stuff is everything's been growing steadily, slowly but steadily, and the venues have gotten bigger and the crowds have gotten bigger. So to me, even though maybe like if you just look at the financials of it, you're like, yeah, it's probably not worth it. Like it's not, we're not losing money, but I think people would look at that and be like, man, it's not worth the amount of time we're putting into it for the amount of money we're getting out of it. But I would disagree, because I'm not getting paid in the money necessarily. I'm getting paid in seeing that growth, that organic growth that we're getting, that is actually growing a real audience. It's not like buying a bunch of streams or whatever. Um, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think that you have to first, if you're going to ask the question, is it worth it? The first thing you have to answer is like, how do you ascribe worth? Like if you're going to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to me, it's the big, I take a macro view of it. So overall, we're, like I said, I'm not losing money at it. But if you looked at how much I'm getting paid, if you're just looking at that, most people would probably say, well, that definitely isn't worth working an 8-hour shift at your job and then
Yeah.
driving 16
If
hours
you're breaking
round
it
trip
down to
to
dollars
Richmond,
per hour.
Virginia.
Well, and that was one of my questions was, is it worth it for the money? Is it worth it for just the fun? I mean, like you said, it's based on what you count on your, like you said, it's what you're investing, and it's what do you count it as worth? I mean, obviously you're not making enough off of all of these shows, otherwise you'd be trying to tour constantly and not have a full-time job. That'd be your full-time job.
Yep.
But
And
so
I'm lucky to have.
in some cases it might be worth it just for the enjoyment.
Well, I mean, it like where I get enjoyment is I like talking. I mean, I don't. Not a lot of people are coming up talking to me after the show. They're talking to the singer, but sometimes people do, and that's cool. But I mean, it's we are. I look at this the same way as starting a company, and I have invested time and money into it, and we are watching it grow. And there's satisfaction. Will it grow to the point of where we're all quitting our regular jobs? Who knows? Probably, statistically, no, that will not happen. But who knows? It's there's a lot of determination by everybody in the project, and that's a good feeling. Uh, we think we got something, and we're pushing it, and we are seeing a return on the investments, even though it's not, you know, this a big bucket of money. It's the fact that we are remaining somewhat profitable um, at a time when it's not easy to do, especially with such a large act. So I get a lot of like value out of that, and the things we've been able to do. We have this activism side of the act, and we've done a lot of good things for charities and different organizations.
Gotcha.
But that's
Are you guys normally headlining or like opening for someone, or is it a mix of
it's a
both?
mix. I mean, it's yeah. We evaluate everything. Like this thing that we just did, we were headlining everything, and we had some really great openers, especially in Akron. A band called Hand Plus Noise and another band called singer called Chrissy Strong. They were just incredible. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let's see. So here were a couple I had. So as a touring musician, what is your thought process on the gear that you take with you? Like, do you take your best gear? Do you take what's most economic? Is it like this is my favorite thing, so I'm gonna take it, or is it this is my favorite thing, it's not expendable, so I'm gonna leave it behind? Like, because of course there's always the risk of something gets damaged, stolen, what have you. So, like, if you've got your favorite bass whatsoever, is that the one you take because you want to play it because it's your favorite? Or is it more, I'm on the road, I'm really not wanting to risk it, and I'll just leave it at home? Or does it depend on the show? If it's like, oh no, if this is a big venue, I'm bringing the best I got. How do you get that decision? I guess.
Well, I guess if you're not comfortable with something happening to the instrument, then you shouldn't take it on the road. Um, I kind of, I mean, I have a couple that are sentimental, but they're ones that I wouldn't take on the road anyway. Um, but I would say whatever you feel the best about as like as far as reliability and dependability, um, mixed with like, are you comfortable losing it? You know, because you can insure your stuff and you'll get the money. Um, but am I going to take a custom bass that I waited 2 years to have made? I'll get the money, but I'm still going to wait another 2 years to get it made. Those are all things I think about. That's one of the many things. I mean, to plug. I'm not here to plug stuff, but like to plug one of our sponsors, Reverend. That's they're such good instruments, and they're at a price point where we're comfortable. If one gets stolen, we could get another one quickly. Um, so I think that's all important to look at. Like I don't have a Federa or anything like that, but I have some more expensive stuff, and I don't normally take it anywhere. My most expensive bass is probably either my upright or my six string, and I don't really take them anywhere.
So on the being excuse me, on being like sponsored or a player of particular instruments, is that I know I'd said something to this about being an endorsed artist or whatever on a different live, but being a reverend artist, is it obviously like there's no we'd said before there's no like contract that you exclusively play, but
Nope.
being a reverend player, being endorsed by them, is there any like expectation that you're supposed to have one at least on set at some point, or is it like obviously if you didn't like the instruments you wouldn't be a
Well,
reverend
well, that's
player,
the first thing.
so you're gonna take one?
That's the first thing is you know I sought out the sponsorship because I like the instruments. So I choose, but I choose. That's what I choose to play on tour and stuff like that. Um, there is no expectation that they have communicated to me. The joke I always say about that is, I mean, Michelle and Dago Cello has a signature model with them, and I don't think I've ever seen her play it. I always see her playing other manufacturers. Um, and I don't know. Because I think that's one of the reasons I like being with Reverend so much is they don't do that thing where they act like other companies don't exist. Like if you watch their YouTube channel, he'll bring on other guitar manufacturers and like all that stuff. And I just think I think I really like them as a company because of the way they interact with other companies and the way they promote other companies a lot of times. And because it's rising tide raises all ships. So, but no, there. I mean, I have a so touring. I usually take two bases, and it's usually one of my Reverends and a fretless. Well, Reverend doesn't make a fretless, so it's a Lakeland. Um,
So on your go ahead.
well, and I mean, it's my favorite fretless I've ever had. I mean, it's if I don't know, I don't see Reverend making a fretless, but if they did, I doubt I probably still play my Lakeland.
So when you're like you said, you take two bases. When you're selecting, do you do you go with like which one's your current one that you like? Is it based on what you're going to be playing? Is it just toss a coin and
Sometimes,
see which one comes up?
no,
Or
there's a bit of a process involved. Here lately, because we're starting, one like kind of a coincidence is this album we just recorded. I did a lot of five string, so after we release it, I'm probably going to be playing five string most of the time, just because I'm not going to switch between instruments a bunch. Um, so I've been kind of taking out only the five strings here lately, just to kind of get used to that again. Um, and so it's usually right now I'm kind of like only taking the five strings, so there's a bit of a limited option there. But no, I don't. It's not much of a. It's just kind of whatever's been doing the best for me at the moment.
do you have specific gear that you use for everything, like not the instrument? Do you have like specific gear that is just for, like, I know some people who have a whole bunch of different amps and pedals and they have like one or two pedal boards they swap out. Do you have anything that's like this is my touring rig versus this is my at home rig,
No,
or is it all just one thing, or it all
no. I mean,
changes?
I have one pedal board, and I have I tend to take the same amp. I only have two amp rigs, and I'm actually after this run, I've actually decided I'm going to start taking the big one out instead of the little one. Um, so I am going to be taking my other rig out, my bigger one, just because I'm running a lot of effects this time, and I noticed, I'm running a lot of signal through the amp head, and I noticed the little rig is starting to clip a little bit and stuff like that. So I'm going to start taking the big one out.
So what's the difference in those two? What's the big one and the little
Well,
one?
in terms like an important thing for us is space. We take a you have to have a decent inventory for your merch. That's half of your. I have a minivan, and that's half of it right there, just the merch. And then if two bases, and then I always end up taking somebody else. Well, like if it's the drummer, okay, now it's a drum set, and it can,
There's the other half of your minivan.
yeah, like the space fills up fast. So I've been trying to be as small as possible, and because a lot of times what happens is we go out on the road and it'll be like two out of the three venues or whatever I wouldn't need an amp for, but I have to bring an amp because of that third venue. And so yeah, well, there goes a whole bunch of space right there that we would have had. Because I am set up to go ampless if the venue can allow for it. But um,
So when you say ampless, are you meaning like cabs, or do you mean like if they have everything set up and you're just hooking in your pedal board?
Yeah, we also, yeah, pretty much, because I have a DI box on my pedal board, and we have started using. I have an in-ear rig as well, so I really don't even need a monitor as long as the PA. But you know, like I said, a lot of times you're only bringing because most of the time we're playing either a festival or a larger venue or like a you know a larger bar or whatever, and they usually have a good PA system, but not always. So a lot of times our singer does a good job trying to investigate that stuff so we know the situation, and it's just a lot of times it's just one of those venues you need the amp for. So it's like, well, may as well use it at all of them then. So space is a big deal. But I usually use my Trickfish mini one, two mini 12 cabs and a micro 500 head. But I'm going to be using their bullhead 1000 and 4/8 over 112 for the remainder of this tour and the next tour.
So when you get to a venue, if it turns out it has like the good PA and stuff, are you? I know you said might as well have it. Are you bringing in all of those the cabs and speakers and stuff, or if you get there and you set for sound check and it's like, nah, they've got a good PA, are you just bringing in the head? Or are you just using the pedal board?
Well, that's the good thing about my pedal board is it's the same EQ section as my amp head. It's a Trickfish preamp. Um, so no, if I walk in and it's like obviously set up with me going ampless in mind, and I brought it, I do whatever the sound guy wants. Really, I don't argue it. If some of them prefer you go ampless, some of them prefer you have the amp. Some of them, they're just like musicians. They all got their quirks too and their way of doing it. And I think that's kind of how I've uh, approached the way I prepare for a tour is just trying to be adaptable. So no matter what, I can make it happen without having to be insistent on anything. A lot of times, that's what I do is we'll just show up and we play a lot of theaters, and every theater has their own way of doing things, and we'll just show up and I sound guy asks me what I want, and I'm like, well, what do you normally do? And whatever he says, that's what I do.
So, as far as the gear you bring, like obviously if you're switching to the larger rig, then you're going to have less of that space. Is there anything that is like the more I guess the question I'm trying to come up with is it is there anything that's more valuable in that space requirement? Like, is there ever a thing of, hey, I would really like to have this, but like obviously your pedal board takes up less space than a cab, so it's going in there first. But like, do you have like a hierarchy of this is what needs packed first, and then if I have room, I'll put these things, or is it just basically I know I need all of this, I've got to make it all fit?
No, not really, because we there's a lot of like pre-planning. It's not. I can. If it comes down, it's like, well, I know I'm going to be bringing the drummer. It's like, okay, well, so I'm going to have that drum set. I know that's coming. If okay, bringing the drummer and the keyboard player. So, and usually what I'll do is I'll curtail the merch a little bit. The way I have our merch, like I have a booth and I have all the merchandise. And if it looks like space is going to be tight, I'll take the booth out because normally there's a folding table somewhere at the venue that they'll let you use. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm only taking one bass because we need all the space we can get. Um, and that is that it's not ideal, but What are you gonna do? Um, so I think that's the big thing with touring and just if you're going to be a busy live band in general is just be as adaptable as you can be. Don't expect a venue to adapt to you. You should make an effort to adapt to any venue.
So when you had said like you use your van, so you guys don't do the whole hey we've got the Aristotle Jones trailer, so
No,
basically something that's saying
no,
easily pawnable theft
no.
merchandise inside for anybody who wanted to.
Well, no. First of all, we have a good insurance policy for all the gear, and if you're going to be doing this, it's like $7 a month. Just do it. Um, and
I might
uh,
need to look into that.
well, for you, I mean, yeah, at least a rider on your property insurance. Um, so that's the first thing is CYA as much as possible. Um, and no, we convoy. Being such a big band, us all traveling in the same vehicle would be very. It's between that and the gear. Nobody has a single vehicle big enough. Um,
You
and
said
it
it's
just
8 pieces, so is that 8 musicians?
yeah,
And then is
three
there
three horn
that?
players. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say is that so it's 8 total people or just 8 musicians and then you have like a singer or backup singers? Like how many people do you have?
No, it's an eight piece. Like everybody, like we have eight people on stage.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
You said
So
3 horns.
yeah, three horns, drums, keys, bass, lead guitar, and then Aristotle.
So you guys would need like a modified school bus in order to fit all of your stuff and
Well, we,
all of
we
the
did a
people.
we did a recording session in Brooklyn, and we rented a 15 packs van, and it worked. It was cramped, but it worked. Uh, but yeah, we would need something to do it without substantial discomfort. We would have to at least we would probably have to do like an RV or something. I don't know. It's also not really practical because we do kind of live. We're kind of spread out. Uh, I live like an hour and a half away from Aristotle, um, and our keyboard player lives like an hour the other way. It's
Hmm.
so we're kind of spread out as well. So it just kind of makes sense for us to convoy.
That was
We
another
carpool as much as we can.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to ask was when when you're touring because you'd said that you guys convoy. That was going to be my question. Was obviously I figured y'all didn't live in
Yeah.
the same apartment building, um, so I was going to ask like, do is it something when you're touring? Now, obviously, if it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're doing different shows like in the same town or nearby towns, then it would make
Mhm.
sense. But do you guys ever do tours where like everyone leaves and then everyone has to meet up a few days later, or is it y'all pretty well stay together throughout that tour?
Um, Again, adaptability. Sometimes we go out and somebody can go out in the beginning, but then they have to go do something else in the middle, and they can come back for the end. And it's very much like you have to do a lot of planning, and then everybody has to stick to the plan. Um, so it's a yes and no thing. Sometimes we have to make real, like for instance, the first date we did on this run was a Thursday night, and the one horn player was supposed to meet up with the other horn player, and he was taking a Greyhound bus. It was like an hour drive, but he doesn't have a car. Well, the Greyhound bus was delayed, and the horn players didn't make it for the first date. So we had to throw basically all the big horn centered songs, throw those out, and then come up with other stuff on the fly. And then the next day, the horn players were there, and we were able to do what we planned to do, and it went way better. But it, yeah, it's you have to life gonna life. You have to be ready to, don't get mad at each other. Don't, and in those instances, it's really like you have to come together and be like, okay, we're here. No sense in us getting mad about it, or lamenting our position.
Sure.
Like
Life
let's just
goes
figure
on.
this out. Yep.
So,
And the show does.
is there I mean, you've talked a lot about like we said, the is it worth it? That's up to each individual, of course. I mean, it's just like music. If you want to be a famous YouTube star and have millions of subscribers and stuff, you're going to have to decide what's worth it to you to dedicate time, energy, money into doing that. If you had, if there was a piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to do touring, and of course prerequisites like they already have an instrument, they already have some competency with the instrument they're playing, that kind of stuff. What would you say is like two big pieces of advice that you could give someone who wants to do touring, if not obviously as a living, but like you're saying with yours, like what would you give someone who wants to do touring that wants it to be like an actual part of their livelihood, if not their sole income, something that they at least don't lose money doing?
Hmm. Yeah. So uh, first of all, is if you want something to be your job, you have to make it your job. Um, so that means you have to do it all. Unfortunately, like we're all older, and none of us do social media particularly well. We try, but we're not good at it. Um, and none of us, we all hate it, but like I still force myself to do it, and results, whether or not I do well at it is definitely a subject for debate. But I've learned a little bit about like what does well, and at some point it's work. It's not going to be fun. Um, I've played with so many people that have all this talent, but they when it becomes an actual job and it's not just fun, they just shrivel up, and it's ridiculous, frankly. Like that you think it's all going to be sunshine and roses. So that would be my first thing is just understand that it's a job, um, and make it your job, which means you kind of take some of the emotion out of it. You don't you can't I have a temper and stuff, but and I can't I have to tamp that down when a deal doesn't go through the way I thought it was going to, or thought it should. Um, so it's there's always going to be a struggle with it.
Sorry, my 4-year-old decided to run in here
Yeah,
crying,
you're
telling
good.
me he loves me, and then ran away. So I don't know what happened to cause that, but I appreciated it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the other thing would be adaptability and this is both a pragmatic thing and an abstract thing. Like go through your rig and have like what happens if that breaks? What am I going to do? Okay, what happens if that breaks? Each component, um, and have a plan
So buy
because it's all
two
going to
of
break.
everything. Gotcha.
No, I didn't say that. But if that's feasible, go ahead. It's not feasible for me. Um, it's just having a plan basically and a workaround. And then also adaptability, it goes in with like your attitude and everything because things are going to happen and you are going to have to adapt. And you can't all the time you spend complaining about it is wasted when you could be solving the issue.
Okay. So then I guess along that line of you've got to be adaptable. Don't let one bad thing ruin the entirety. What would you say is the worst part of touring? Like what is a thing that if you can't handle this thing, obviously, excuse me, obviously if you're being adaptable, you should be able to overcome, adapt
Yeah.
to what's going there. But if if you are a person who absolutely can't stand this, you shouldn't tour. Is there anything that comes to obviously if you can't stand like not being at home,
Yeah.
if you always
Well,
want
I
to be
mean,
at home
that,
all the time,
but that's
if
the thing
you
is a
don't
lot of
like
people.
being in front of people.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of people think that. Um, so this is my answer is gonna be kind of abstract, but like this is why a lot of people think that they can handle something until they're in the middle of it. A lot of people like, yeah, I can be on the road for 6 weeks, and then on week three they're like, they're in a puddle of tears or whatever. Um, I haven't, I don't have that issue, but I mean, frankly, my wife's used to me being gone for like 6 to 10 months. So these like two to 6 week trips that I do, it's we're fine. We're fine. I don't have those type of problems, but sometimes people do. It's just understanding that because if you're not willing to have those issues and things arise, this may not be for you.
So on the that was me with TikTok. So that's my wife chiming in now, saying that because she was doing TikTok and she had like a whole group she was working with, kind of like what we do with bass, but they were all like the like ADHD, autism spectrum, stuff like that. And they had a whole bunch of them that kept getting together. She had videos that were getting, which on TikTok, obviously different than YouTube, but like videos that were getting like 10,000 views and stuff. And then it started becoming a job where it was like, you need to post today. You haven't posted in so many hours. You need to build the moment. Like it was sending her, I guess, messages like you need to do a thing. You need to put this many more minutes worth of content out. Otherwise, whatever. So, I mean,
Hmm.
the making it your job for sure. I mean, it's like I tell people, I do this, and I might spend, I don't know, I probably spend between 30 minutes and 2 hours a week planning what I'm gonna do, and then I might spend an hour actually recording videos. Then there's another hour or two or four in doing the editing. And then like this, where it's like an hour, hour and a half just to live stream, where the setup is pull the microphone over and turn on the stream and then wait for people to show up. So, and then talk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm probably on a good week spending 2-ish hours doing it, and then on a bad week I might be spending 8 hours just trying to renegotiate where videos are going to go, because I've been told by a few that I'm a bit extra because I have, I think, except for 3 videos that I'm waiting for the instruments and such to show up, I think I have a queue full right now until the end of April of videos already slated to release. They're already uploaded and set, and I know I'm extra for that. But
Uh,
also, if
what
something
extra?
happens,
Uh,
prepared. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
we all know how the algorithm works, or well, some of how it works, and then the rest of it doesn't make sense. But
yeah. I
like it
definitely don't know
rewards,
exactly how it works.
yeah, like we know that it rewards consistency. We know that it rewards um, activity. So if you, like I do, every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time, it uploads a video. There's a video uploaded, it goes live. So that means every week, if I were to get sick or hurt and couldn't do videos, there would be again like 3 maybe 4 weeks through April that I wouldn't have a video already there. Now, of course, that's a pain when I have something else, like someone a company just sent me an instrument. It comes tomorrow, and I promised to have it released earlier, so I had to take a set of videos and move them later. But the making the touring your job, I mean, it 100% is something I think most people wouldn't think of, but once you say it, it makes all the sense in the world of you're not just going to be having part of your livelihood or even your whole livelihood for sure
I'll well, I'll give you like this is the type of thing you need to be ready to do. Okay, we had we're in the middle of this tour, but obviously we're not going across country. Our we're going like maybe 8 hour drive at the most away. Um, so
from
it's
each venue or just from like where you started
you
until
know
the end.
because we all have to work. You know we still have our you know obligations and everything, and so as where the hope is as this grows, eventually we get to the point where we have to stay out on the road because it's grown that much. But we're not there yet, so we have to work. Um, I have a huge advantage with having certain things because of my prior career. But it's there's also a lot of disadvantages because I have trouble with other aspects of things because of my prior career. Um, but so it's a balancing act, and that's how you win the balancing act is balance. But uh, for instance, as far as making it your job, so my work schedule is Monday through Thursday. I work noon to 8 p.m. and then on Saturday I work from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we
This
had a
is at
show.
the music shop you work at?
Yes, and we had a show in Richmond, Virginia on Friday. Um, I worked. Uh, Richmond, Virginia is roughly seven and a half 7.5 hours from my house. Um, so I worked Thursday night, came home, went to bed, woke up, and I went and got woke up and I got Aristotle, in which he lives an hour and a half away, and then we drove down to Richmond, played the show, got in the car, drove back, got home, got him dropped off, and I got home at about 6 a.m. I laid down for 2 hours. I woke up. I had to be at work at 10 a.m. Worked my shift, and then came home and collapsed for a while. But those are the kind of things that have to happen, and it's not anybody's fault or anything. It's not something to be all woe is me about. It's just what has to happen. And we made money on the trip. We didn't make much money,
No.
you know.
You're
But
not tendering that resignation paper based on the money you made for sure.
no, and I'm also lucky that when there's times come up where I do need the time off, my job affords me that. Um, so
So what would you say do you have any fun horror stories you want to share from touring of the oh my gosh, this one time
um,
to scare anybody off who's
well,
thinking about it and
actually, if you join the Low End Lobster Discord, I have a thread on there called Tales from the Gig,
oh,
and I have a bunch of. We should have pre-coordinated this because I have a video to go with this story. But yeah, so I was touring through. I we had gone down to. I was it was with a Nirvana tribute band, and we had gone down and played a show. I can't remember because we went down to Florida a lot, but it was either Tampa or Orlando. Went down and played a show. I believe it was at Orlando, and
how far is that from you? That must be a long drive.
oh, that's Pittsburgh to Orlando. And we did drive because it was like a run. Um, Uh, I don't know because like we went to like we never drove more than like 4 hours a day because we were going date to
Mm.
date or whatever. So I don't, from
It
Pittsburgh to
wasn't you drove
Orlando.
like 24 hours straight or anything.
No, nothing
Okay,
like
okay.
that. But we did drive. We did do that going home because the last date we didn't have any dates going home, so we like went
Oh,
down. That's just how. So the drive home was a straight shot, and so the drive we do the thing and it's great. When on that drive home, we were in. Oh God, we were outside of I believe Raleigh, North Carolina, and we hit a deer and it just destroyed the van. And it was a rental. It was a rental. So it was Hertz. Never use Hertz if anybody's watching this. Um, but
not endorsed by Enterprise, but
oh, good lord, I'll never use Hertz. But so that's who we rented the car through, and they we tried to call them. I have AAA, which also if you're going to be touring, get the $75 AAA membership. It's 8 free tows a year, and you may that may come in handy. Um, but and you get discounts everywhere you go. It's never much, but hey, when you're
might
again,
total to $75.
again, and that's the other thing is, man, join all those little say. Well, I don't want to. I can't curse on here, but join all those little savey save cards. Um, your Sheets card and your Speedway card and get all that stuff because you're going to use it, and every penny helps keep you profitable, um, and save all those receipts. But it yeah, it just we were coming back, we hit this deer, and they the cops took forever to get to us, and they said, "Well, we have another situation going on," and off in the distance we see these sirens and there's a lady on a pedal bike coming up the other side of the interstate, and the cop is just trailing behind her with his lights on. So we learned two things: there's only one cop on duty in that sector, and he was involved in a high speed chase with an old lady on a bicycle. And yeah, I have a video of it.
Hopefully his foot didn't come off the brake. He might have had an
It
incident.
was ridiculous. It was the most ridiculous thing. And then we ended up Hertz left us on the side of the road for 9 hours before. Yeah, it was a thing that almost had lawyers involved and all this because they were trying to our band leader refused. He said, "I'm not paying for this rental car. Like you guys left us on the side. Like we paid for the insurance and all that. You guys left us on the side of the road for 9 hours. It was pretty nuts."
So you said you guys convoy. So was like everyone just pulled off the interstate, or was it just that one, or was
On
everyone in
that
that one
particular
van?
trip, on that particular, sorry, I should have prefaced, on that particular trip, we had rented a van and everybody drove together. Um,
Okay, so this
on,
was everyone in the whole
yeah, we
group
were all in the same
sitting,
vehicle on that particular trip.
and at that point, not enough room for anybody to even get in, sit down, stretch out, and relax for 9.5 hours either.
No, because we had gear and everything. It
And
was
it's not like you could have just left the van and gotten an Uber because all the gear's there.
yeah, and that it was a whole thing. It was. I just wanted to tell the funny part with the old lady pedaling on a bicycle. That's what was taking the cops so long. Um, the other parts would take all night.
Gotcha. So be adaptable and don't use Hertz. Gotcha. These are the lessons to take away. Join
Uh,
AAA and all the savings things. Which I
Yes.
mean, like anytime I've checked into a hotel, they always ask like, "Are you a member of?" And then they ask all the different things, and AAA's one. So, I mean, if
Yep.
you're paying for the AAA membership, if you're staying in hotels often, even if it's $5 a night, that money's going to come back.
I mean, that's the thing is that, like I if you're profitable, that's a huge accomplishment. If you're traveling around and stuff, and you can even if it's and people are only making a couple $100 a gig or whatever, like that's a huge accomplishment in this game. Just being profitable, um, and especially with us, and that's what I say is just like there's a lot of value in just seeing the growth. The fact that we can travel with so many people reliably and we can make enough money playing at places reliably that it's like not a loss, is awesome. But that's the thing is you have to every little cost you can cut, you kind of have to be that way. um, that it's a lot of packing your own lunches and stuff like that, and then
Sure.
hopefully if the venue has food and you're not hungry, like put it in a box. You'll be hungry later.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a lot of staying in econo
yeah.
box hotels, not booking a suite, and
Well, and then here lately we've gotten very lucky. We've been getting the venues have been putting us up in these actually very nice. We played a show in Pulaski, Virginia, and they put us up in this like the town inn, and it used to be a furniture factory that they turned it into a hotel. It was really cool. It was a really cool place. So sometimes you luck out.
that's another thing I was going to ask was, do you guys typically do just the cheap hotel? Does it provide it? Do you guys try to
We
do like an
we
Airbnb
do
or
what we again we're prepared to do all of it.
whatever
Yeah,
you can?
it's whatever whatever is profitable in that environment. Like when we did a run down
Sure.
to Georgia, and we had a cluster of dates in Myrtle Beach. So it was when we were in Myrtle Beach, we found an Airbnb, and it was cheaper than the hotel. So and then we had one we couldn't find a big enough Airbnb, so a couple of our horn players had enough. They had enough rewards points saved up that they were able to stay at like a Best Western or something like that. So it again, like
Yeah.
that's why you have all those little points programs and all that stuff because you never know.
Oh yeah. But say if you know you're always going to stay at a certain hotel brand, then for sure. Or if you're going to stay at all of them, just join all of their memberships.
Well, yeah, I mean it's just every time we go to a new and then especially with hotels is like there's only like three companies left that own all of them. It seems like so like if you have a Hilton Rewards, that's going to be several hotel and motel chains right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Hilton,
I
Marriott,
think I only have like five cards.
IGH.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking at my keychain now. But
Looking at your travel coupon
yeah,
book over
yeah,
there. Who can I
and
stay with?
I'm kind of the only guy that does that, so I'm kind of the nerd about it. But I do that. I'm consistent.
So, do you, and this might be, I mean, this isn't going to affect everybody, but do you guys do, like, is the band just a whole bunch, for lack of better terminology, is the whole band just a whole bunch of, like, individual people, or are you guys like an LLC, S
Oh,
corporation, whatever, so that it's all paid and then like uniform deductions and all that? Because
yeah,
like you
we
said,
do
save the
everything
receipts.
straight up. Yeah, it's a LLC situation. We do everything straight up. Um, definitely have that stuff handled when you're on the road, and really when you're writing and producing and releasing music, you should have that stuff straightened out. Who owns what, and split sheets and all that. No, we're LLC set up, and it's easier to get insurance and things like that when you do that. Um, so definitely handle that stuff.
Yeah. About to say, I can't even imagine the amount of horror it would be if everyone was sole proprietor of I'm Chris Volpini who spent this money and I made this much and I have to itemize all of that out by the time taxes are due as opposed to a shell. So, yeah.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you have to be diligent. At least have. I'm not gonna spell out like have a system that works for you for keeping track of everything. Um, you know, we are still, we're still improving on that. That's something that we're still not. I wouldn't say we're 100% at. We don't all keep receipts from the fuel pumps and stuff like that. We're not all good about that.
That's what I was going to ask when you said you were an LLC if you had like a banned bank account that had everybody a card to be able to pay at the pumps and then you
No,
just use like QuickBooks or whatever
no.
and
A lot
it
of
all just
times it's
itemizes itself.
no. A lot of times what we do is Aristotle has a company card, so to speak, and he'll ride with somebody or whatever. And if he's riding with you, he'll just do the gas with it. And then the rest of us, we just save the receipts and give it to him, and then he reimburses. He'll just like
Sure.
Venmo you the money or whatever. Um,
Gotcha.
it's we all trust each other, so there a lot of
Sure.
that. It's not like a straight up like we have to sign a piece of paper. We're everybody's pretty
Yeah.
honorable. Um,
Sure.
you know,
Wouldn't work out very well if you weren't.
no, no. Everybody's
Yeah, this
everybody.
$14,000 bill for a trashed hotel room. Yeah, that was business related. Here, just
No,
swipe the
nobody's
card.
like that. No, nobody's like that. But yeah,
Okay. Well, I don't see anything in the chat of any questions. So, is there anything that we haven't discussed in our train of thought that you can think would be additional to, hey, here's what's something else you should know, or think we got all the bases covered?
no, man, just be loose when you're like don't get stressed out about stuff. It'll be fine when you're doing it.
No rules
Uh,
about picking up groupies or anything like that while on tour? Or...
I'm a very happily married man. I don't I you know I don't, that's not even a consideration.
There you go.
But I've seen
Okay. Well,
I've
I
seen some
sure
damage get done though.
maybe
I've seen
maybe you
people.
advise against that.
Well, yeah, I've seen some people make some bad decisions and regret it. Um, but they're adults.
There you go. Well, I sure appreciate you being on this week.
Yeah.
Hondo was gonna be on, but I know with his job he had like the craziness last week where he had to go in. So
What's he do?
if he is I don't remember the title, but he is the human resource director for the city.
Oh
So
wow.
he has. So when I was talking to him, because of course I'm HR, just over a store of 180 people, so mine's nothing compared to his. But I guess he's over also like internal affairs for the city police, and he's over like everything. So
Wow.
he's had some fun. But if he's available, then just to the people watching, if he's available next week, then maybe he'll come on, do
Honda,
kind of a
he's a
talk
great
on the
dude.
same thing. Oh yeah, he was there. He came to Base House one night while we were at NAM, and we hung out for a few hours. Everybody, so
Yeah, he
maybe
was a lot
maybe
of fun when last when we were out there last time.
yeah.
He came over. It was a lot of fun.
So if
Good
he's
dude.
available, then we'll get him on. Maybe he can give some info on it. I don't know next week's topic yet because I'm still waiting to see who might be available to do what. I know Hondo wants to talk about the touring, gigging. I think he also wants to talk about possibly like some of the studio stuff. of like
Mm,
what's worth it on that. So that'll be a topic in the future. But Chris, you come up with a cool sign off yet? Since you've been on here a few times.
nah. See you next week.
No, okay. There you go. He'll see you next week. As always, I have been the okayest bassist. As always, as well. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right.